Welcome to This Day Devo. My name is Pastor Guy. It is an honor to have you here with me today as we read Mark chapter 10, verse 35 through chapter 11, verse 14. What we are seeing on repeat throughout the book of Mark is Jesus expressing to his disciples the call to service, the call to humility, the call for loving the least of these, the call for loving the weak, the call for being willing to be last, being willing to put others ahead of yourself, the call to a childlike, simple trust in Jesus for your salvation and for your shelter throughout your life. And as Jesus is teaching, one of the things that's so neat is he teaches, and then he has an opportunity to show the disciples what he means with a real life illustration or a real life parable. And sometimes it works, he teaches and then it happens. Sometimes it happens and then he teaches. But all throughout that, it's the beauty of seeing the Gospels come to life because we see Jesus interacting as a real person among other real people in real life and real world scenarios. In today's passage, we begin with Jesus teaching about the need to serve others because the disciples are again talking about wanting to be great. What does it take for me to sit at your right hand when I come into your kingdom? They're discussing this, arguing through this, saying, yeah, we can drink the cup. Sure, we can do that. And Jesus turns that to say in verse 45, for even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve others and to give his life as a ransom. And then as they're walking, they find their way to Jericho, which would be around 18 miles outside of Jerusalem, a very famous Old Testament town that had kind of become probably more like a tourist destination of sorts in this era. But a blind beggar, as they're walking along this road, where a blind man who had become blind would have spent a lot of time around this routes like this because it's where he can get a hold of people, where people can give him some of their pocket change so he can get by. And he can't see, but he hears that this crowd that is on their way to Jerusalem, probably many of them for Passover, are that Jesus is at the beginning of this crowd. And in the faith that he has in him for Jesus and what he's heard and maybe seen, he cries out. Even though everybody is coming after him, they're saying, be quiet, be quiet, be quiet. They keep yelling at him. He just shouts all the louder to the point where Jesus hears him calling out in faith, and Jesus calls him to come over to himself. The people say, cheer up, come on, he's calling you. And in this faith, Jesus is about to heal him. Jesus is about to give him sight. And when Jesus does that, he follows him and presumably becomes a disciple and follows Jesus all the way to Jerusalem, where he would then humbly ride that donkey on Palm Sunday on the triumphal entry into Jerusalem. So this is one of Jesus' last things that he does before entering to Jerusalem for his Passion Week, for the final week of his life. And what I love about this is Jesus is just continually showing us his love for those who are small and those who are in need, his heart of compassion for those who desperately need his love and they need his help. This man Bartimaeus, when he hears that Jesus is calling him, he throws his coat, he throws his cloak, and he jumps up and he goes to Jesus. You think about the significance of that. These are the kind of things we read in Scripture and think, well, why is that in there? That's just this little thing. Makes no sense. It's just adding to the story. But I would argue that there is always a reason why God thought it was important for us to know this. And when I think about a coat in the life of a poor, blind beggar, that was probably one of his most prized, most important possessions he had. A coat right? It's warmth on a cold day. It's shelter from the storm. It's the protection that he has. It's his blanket when he sleeps at night. It holds the elements back so it can become his shelter and his refuge. And in the moment that Jesus calls him, he casts it aside. And symbolically, it's as if he's saying, I don't need this worldly thing anymore. I've got Jesus. I don't need this shelter. I have a new shelter. I don't need this refuge. I don't need this protection. I have a new shelter, a new protection. Psalm 91 verse 1 those who live in the shelter of the Most High will find rest in the shadow of the Almighty. Jesus is our refuge. He is our safe place. He is our shelter from the storm, our protection from the elements. And so this poor man was able to do what just a few verses ago the rich man was unable to do. He clung to the things of this world. He clung to the physical, material things that he trusted in for his protection. And yet this poor man said, this is all I own is this cloak right here, and I don't need it because now I've got Jesus. So friends, have you cast that cloak? Have you cast that cloak and said, Lord, my faith in you is all I need. You are all I need. Let's cast our coats today and say, Jesus, I am all in following as your disciple. How do you fill in those daily blanks? Today I learned this about Jesus, and on this day I will this. Have yourself a wonderful Friday. I'll see you soon. Bye.
Down from heaven has the power of